What are you going to do when the shit hits the fan? Now, I don't know exactly what's going to happen for it to hit the fan, but one thing I do know is something's going to happen. And whatever does happen is going to be big, and it's most likely going to be worldwide. Or at the very least, a large proportion of the world, because a large proportion of the world right now is involved with everything that's going on. You look back in history, whenever there's this much unrest worldwide and this much problem, even though the dynamic is different this time, it almost certainly leads to disaster. And as Gerald Celente says, when all else fails, they take you to war. Now, I'm not predicting a war, but there's also a lot of other things going on around the world which could lead to all kinds of disasters. Some of them are. We've got migrant crisis right now happening in many places around the world. I'm sure you all know what's going on with Belarus and Poland. What's going on there with the borders, and that's getting quite violent. We've got millions and millions of people in Somalia who are literally trying to get out because of all the trouble and conflict that's going on over there. A lot of it's not getting reported in the mainstream media in this country. These are all people that are going to be looking for somewhere to go and live. I mean, God bless them. I feel terrible from it's not their fault where they are and the kind of problems they're having to deal with, people with families. It's horrible. But nevertheless, this is a crisis. All these people are going to go somewhere, which obviously you can't blame them for one bit. Turkey's going into what could be hyperinflation in the next year or so after what's happened today and what's been happening over the past few months. We've had riots in quite a few European countries recently because of all the insidious restrictions which are coming into play. We've got economic problems worldwide, which if you've been watching this channel or any other channel like this, then you'll know about that already. And also how to get prepared the best way you can for it. We've got scumbags like Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum talking about things like, cyber attacks and even climate lockdowns and all this other nonsense, which obviously all the puppet politicians around the world, all the leaders in charge want to follow his lead by the looks of things. And obviously the massive theft of freedom and liberty that's being taken away from people that don't want to do certain things regarding medical procedures, and even those that do those certain things with medical procedures, that's still, all their freedom's still getting taken away the same. And obviously that's a slippery slope in itself. You all know what's happened in the past regarding people allow the governments and people in charge to take the freedom in the name of safety. The Berlin Wall was built in order to keep the bad guys out, remember? As well as various other countries that have said the same. Look at Australia, their citizens can't even get on a plane and escape, which is quite a frightening thing to think about. Now, I'm not saying all this to get you depressed, because certainly if you think about it too hard, we are in a dangerous situation with everything that's going on here. Let's not kid ourselves. But the main purpose of this video is, what are you going to do when the shit hits the fan? Because you don't need all of these things to happen for shit to hit the fan. It only takes one of these things to happen, and now, even though individually, each of these things, the odds of them all happening, or individually, the odds of one of them happening is probably quite small. The odds of none of them happening whatsoever is near enough impossible, given the current circumstances. So, do you have an exit plan? Do you have ways of supporting yourself with food, with water, with anything, stuff to barter with? And I'm not necessarily just going to be talking about gold, silver and Bitcoin on this video, even though I do believe they're important things to have. I'm just talking about more basic things, house security, and I'm not talking about CCTV or alarms. I mean, can you physically secure your house any better? What would you do if someone breaks in? Because we're heading into desperate times now. Can you defend yourself with or without a weapon, at least legally, if someone breaks in your house in the UK? The law's very grey indeed if you use a weapon on someone in the UK if someone breaks in your house. But as far as I'm concerned, if someone's in my house, then I'm defending my family and I don't care what kind of prison time I get. for defending them. But also, what about when you're walking down the street? Because like I say, we're going to be heading into desperate times. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but like I say, another so-called Black Swan event is almost inevitable. Don't be fooled right now by all these all-time highs by the stock market and all that kind of stuff. Look what's going on across the world. There's a huge perception gap right now in what people are expecting to happen in the next few years and what is actually taking place right now. If the central banks didn't step in around the world, like the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, if all these guys didn't step in and print as much as they did after the lockdowns, excuse me, then we would be in a depression right now. Now, one thing that doesn't change is it doesn't matter how much money you print. If you're in a depressionary environment, which we're heading into right now, make no mistake about that, then it doesn't matter how much money you print, because that money will not replace the jobs and the goods and the services which have been lost as a result of these lockdowns and the mandates. You know, it doesn't matter how much money you print. If you make it illegal for certain types of people to go out for food, then that restaurant has lost 20% of the customer. If another type of business has gone under, that service isn't there no more to help the people, because that's what it's there for, to serve the people. Therefore, the people have less access to goods and services, and the standard of living goes down. And obviously the cost for those competing goods and services goes up because they're in more demand. And also you've got to think about these supply chains as well. All the things I mentioned before could have a massive effect on supply chains for things like food. Don't take it for granted, guys. You should be stocking up right now on food. And if anyone says something like, well, yeah, but you're going to cause a shortage because you're getting all the food right now, that's actually incorrect. If you go and get the food now ahead of time, that actually gives the supply chains a chance to catch up. Whereas when the shit does hit the fan and everyone runs in the supermarket and strips it bare, that's when the supply chains struggle quite a lot, because everyone's hitting it up at once. So make use of all kinds of materials, not just food. Get yourself a water filter as well. Make use of any kind of material you think might be useful for you if you're staying in your house, if you're staying in your country while all this stuff goes off. There's obviously only a few countries out there which I'm aware of where COVID pretty much doesn't exist. There's no restrictions. One of them's Albania. There's a few South American countries as well. Obviously there's a couple places in Africa and whatnot, but it just depends if you're comfortable going to some of these third world countries and what your situation is with family, whether you want your family there. These are complicated issues for anyone, but you need to think, if I'm not expecting anything to happen anytime soon, so hopefully we do have time to prepare somewhat. I never used to consider myself a prepper before 2020, but boy, that certainly has changed now. Even though I was always cognizant of certain things and certain vulnerabilities that we have in our society. I also highly recommend looking into disasters in the past, so you can see for yourself and get an idea of what things will be like. I've been looking a lot into past famines, and it's just horrific, some of the things which happened in Ukraine as well as China, as well as, you know, things like hyperinflations. Understand what happens in those environments, how desperate people get, and just look at third world countries right now in terms of the standard of living and some of the things they don't have access to. You know, should you be stocking up on medicines, especially if you depend on those medicines? These are all things you should be thinking through. I'm hoping that nothing big and disastrous happens, but I think at this point it's incredibly unlikely that nothing will happen at all. At the very best, we're going to be going into a inflationary depression, where things start to cost more and people, the economic output is much less than what it's previously been. So there's less goods and services, so our standard of living goes down. That's actually the best outcome I can see right now. because of all the civil unrest that's going on right now. As I say, with all these mandates, all the governments, all the mass immigration we're seeing around the world, things could get quite nasty quite quickly. And it doesn't even matter if it ends up being most of the people against the governments pushing back. People are animals, they'll turn on themselves. That's just how things are. If things go lawless, you'll want to be on your guard when you're walking down the street, even more so than what you may be already. These are just things to be aware of, and your neighbours as well. Don't let them know some of the things which you may be doing in terms of preparing for this kind of stuff. Now, it's quite easy to end up into a kind of bunker mentality, because obviously this stuff, even if you're quite a brave person, if you've got a family to look after as well like I do, then it's quite a scary thought. Which is why it's very important to make sure you are prepared, and not only prepared in the physical sense, but mentally as well. You don't want to end up super paranoid about all this stuff. You should still enjoy life, enjoy the things you've got, enjoy spending time with your family, enjoy working towards something every day. Doesn't matter what your goal is, big or small. You should enjoy working up to it, even if it's hard work. Just know that you're doing it for a purpose, and hopefully that purpose is bigger than you yourself, whatever it is you're working for. The more you can give to others, the more you get back in return, I've found throughout my life. And I'm not talking about scratching someone else's back so they can scratch yours, or giving someone something so I can get something back off them, with that intention. That's not what I'm talking about. I've always found that when I give someone something from a sincere place, whether it's my time to help them with something, I always seem to get that back. I don't know if it's a karma thing, a subconscious thing, or like a law of attraction thing, where I'm attracting that same thing that I give out. I have no idea what it is, but it just seems to happen that way. You do good things for other people, you'll find good things come to you, as long as you do it from a sincere place. But obviously you've got to think through what kind of situation we're in right now, and you may have to draw the line in certain situations which we're finding ourselves into. Especially if you've got a family to look after, they have to come first. For example, someone may pretend they're hurt, or pretend the young child is hurt, just to lure you into a vulnerable place to rob you blind, or even knock on at your house with that kind of story, asking for food or whatever, while there may be, a gang of 2 or more going round the back to kick the door in and come in through the back. These things do happen in civil times, never mind uncivil times or times of civil unrest or desperation. There may be a lot of hard decisions for us all to make in the coming years. None of us know exactly what's going to happen, but one thing's for sure, something will happen again. Because with all these tyrannical psychopaths in charge, it's inevitable something else is going to happen. And people will only take so much before they snap. Not just snapping at the government, but also snapping at each other. If their standard of living goes right down, or they're going through hard times for whatever reason, their patience is going to be a lot shorter. So these are things you need to be aware of going into the environment we're going in. Anyway, sorry it's been a bit doom and gloom. Hopefully you got some positives out of this video today. If you're still watching this video this far in, then thank you very much. Please do like, it helps me out greatly. I'm only a small channel, as you can see from the subscriber base right now and the amount of views I get. I would greatly appreciate it. Any comments, I've got time to get back to you, with the channel being as small as it is right now, and I will answer any question to the best of my ability. Please do subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.